Hello and welcome to Below the Hospital, Episode 2, an Amy podcast on sterile processing and the issues that sterile processing technicians face today. I'm your host, Garland Grisby, Interim Assistant Director for Sterile Processing and Endoscope Service Manager at Kaiser Permanente. I'm also a longstanding Amy member. In this podcast, I interview folks from around the industry about sterile processing and ask hard questions about how we can uplift the profession and protect our patients. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Malinda Elammari, and she is a clinical education specialist at Healthmark Industries, a Getinga company. She began her career as a surgical technologist specializing in open heart surgery, has served in many positions throughout sterile processing departments, and is a tireless advocate for quality training throughout the industry. She sits on multiple AAMI standards committees related to sterilization and sterile processing, and has contributed to many guidance documents like AAMI ST79 and AAMI ST91. So, Malinda, do you want to give a little bit more information about yourself?
Well, I think you did such a great job. I don't know what else to say. Um, I've been in this industry, I just kind of calculated a little over 24 years now. So, yeah, really super sad how old that makes me. But yeah, it's been great. Love what I get to do, love the educational concepts that I get to go out and disseminate. So it's really fun.
That is awesome. So that brings us to our first question. You mentioned education. So what is I'll take this in two parts. So what's the state of clinical education and sterile processing today from what you've seen?
I think overall, the concept of clinical education is getting better. The need, it's getting a little more recognition. Is it where it needs to be? Absolutely not. I think in the hospital settings, there is such a need for more clinical educators. What we see is managers doing everything, wearing 50 hats, and it's impossible for you to wear 50 hats and do the job correctly concepts. So I really believe there is I'm seeing more clinical educators out there. I'm seeing more emphasis on education, but I still believe that we have a long way to go.
Definitely. And sitting in two different roles, I totally understand what you mean there. So what are the regulatory and safety requirements that impact how clinical education is conducted or what it focuses on?
I think, from a regulatory and safety standards perspective, those are constantly updating and changing as, we get more scientific data behind things and we understand things more on a very basic level, and we're able to look at it from a science point of view. Things change, standards change, are the way we look at, this, like ST91. Hello, co-chair, right? Like, we just did ST91 and so much changed with the new version that came out because things updated, scientific studies were done to show, for instance, drying of scope, right? So I think in reference to education, you need an educator, you need somebody who is keeping up with those changes and has the ability to understand that and then disseminate that information to the staff in a constructive way where they can get it.
So generally, there's peri-op educators. Do you think sterile processing needs their own educators?
Absolutely. I feel like peri-op is a whole nother beast. I've come from it. I know it. And once again, those educators are drowning themselves. Never mind adding a whole sterile processing arena that most of them, and no fault of their own, it's just not what they know. That's not their area of expertise. That's not their specialties. So we need people who are specialized in that industry or in that area of sterile processing to be the educators for those people.
Thank you for that. So now you started as a surge tech or a surgical tech. How has that informed your approach to education or clinical education?
I think for me, it's given me the ability to look at things from different perspectives. So having had that knowledge and that background, I'm able to, understand when somebody comes down and they're like looking for something urgently, and they have that urgency about them. I understand why, what's happening in that operating room. When they need a tray turned over, we love to yell and blame the nurses or the scrub techs and get frustrated with them, but truthfully, they're doing their job, and they can only do so much and they're limited. Now, I will say there's stuff that they can do to help make our lives easier. I'm not saying, they're completely to no blame, but I'm just saying, we need to take a step back. And I think that's what having that background and that experience allows me to do is, put myself in somebody else's shoes for a second and say, okay, this person doesn't mean to, be a little aggressive right now. They're in an urgent situation. Let's evaluate the situation. Or understand, when we need a tray, if there's a heart case going on or an orthopedic case and they need something, why do they need it urgently or what the situation is. So I think it allows me also to troubleshoot a little bit more to forecast the future. So I know if we have, 10 total knees, I know, what's going to be used in those cases. So therefore, even if it's not on the pick sheet, I'm like, yeah, you know what, they're probably going to need that system, those kind of things. So
Good perspective. Appreciate that. So what do you wish sterile processing techs and other sterile processing professionals knew about education or knew what education could do for them?
So I think the biggest thing is growth. I think it's personal growth, right? I think it's also industry growth. The more we are educated, the more we show that value and that, I'm going to say that drive for what
Mm-hmm.
we do, then that shows the higher ups and the people who, we need to push to make our industry move forward, pay more attention. And, people may argue that that's stupid or it's, that's sad that it is what it is. This is the way the world works. Unfortunately, it is what it is. So, education, getting certifications, being involved in things, it's all going to help you in the long run.
Thank you. And you in essence answered the next question that I was going to ask about hospital executives and other decision makers, like things that they need to know about the value add of clinical education. Because when you're not feet on the ground, sometimes you may not understand the value.
Yeah, for sure. I think too, from, the C-suites, we need to get them to understand, first of all, what we do. A lot of them don't know what we do. So let's get them to understand what we do and understand the importance of what we do and how it keeps patients safe.
Nice. So if you could change something to benefit both the patients and the folks who work in SPD, what would it be?
I would say recognition. And the reason I say that is I feel like there could be a better way of, let's say, patients coming in for surgery, knowing or having something that says a flyer like they do for everything else, right? Like, hey, this is your team that processed your instrumentation. They're a real live group of people. They exist, and it's not some magic wand where things happen. I think that would be a major benefit to us as an industry, but also to the patients. It will allow them to know that, hey, this facility cares about those people. Therefore, those people are going to care about their job and the product they're giving for my procedure. I think it would help increase morale to help increase keeping patients safe all around. It's a nice loop that would get closed for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very important, right? Recognition Thus, the theme or the title of the podcast, Below the Hospital, what's below any
Exactly.
structure, the foundation, right? Um, so what doesn't work in clinical education? Basically, are there approaches or models that you found that could use improvement?
I think the thing that really we're seeing that doesn't work anymore is constant lectures. Just talking, doing, a whole day of speaking and not having some type of activity in it. I think that really I think that's really become a thing of the past. Like, our people in our industry are very tactile learners for the most part. We have some outliers. And for the most part, we're all, we're tactile learners. We want to touch, we want to feel, we want to participate in something. So just sitting there for, you know, a whole lecture all the time. And, they have their points and they have their place, but I just feel like we have to know who we're dealing with and who we're talking to and how they learn the best and cater to that concept. I still believe there's a place for lectures, a 1 hour or 2 hour lecture, or talk about things. There's so much information out there that needs to get disseminated, but I still think you can have fun. Let's do it. Let's have fun doing it.
Yes, yes, yes. Be goofy,
Yeah.
if you will, right? So, so on the flip side, what works well? Because we know at the end of the day, we're here to ensure that sterile processing professionals can do their jobs. So what helps with that? Like what is working?
For me, I think what works well, again, is just have fun. There's no, I know we're professionals. There's a time to be professional, but, let's be down to earth. Let's have fun with each other. I don't want to, sit there and listen to somebody lecture me who's in a suit and a tie or in this dress suit. And then as soon as it's over, they're gone and they don't even want to stick around to have a conversation with me. Right. Or I don't, I want to feel connected to those people. I want to feel the ability to be able to go up and have a conversation. So for me, when I'm giving talks and stuff, I want my audience to connect to me so that they really get the information I'm giving. I want them to either have an emotional connection to it or, a humorous connection, something where, they're laughing at it because that's when they're going to remember the information. So, it's about making them feel it so they can remember it. And then in the end, hey, oh, okay, Malinda was very down to earth. I know I can go ask her anything. I can have a conversation with her.
And you know what? I've actually seen you in action. And you were not a stranger to the folks in the sterile processing department that met you for the first time, right? It was like they knew you forever. And that's amazing. Do you have a final question? Do you have a call to action? So if folks want to help advance the state of the art or the state of sterile processing, what can they do?
This is my soapbox moment. Hold on. Let me get on it. All right. For me, I would say get involved. I am so tired of hearing people complain about where we are as an industry, where they are personally in their careers, but yet they do not want to get involved. They do not want to. I tell them, okay, here's this organization, volunteer, become a part of it, go to Amy, da da da. They don't want to do it because they're not getting paid. Right? So it's what's in it for them, but they're not understanding the long term of what's in it for them. And it's so frustrating to me that we have such a hard time with getting people involved in chapters and meetings and coming to educational events. I get you can do it online. I understand that. However, you don't get to meet amazing people like me no, I meant Darling. You don't get to meet amazing people at meetings. You don't get to have conversations and joke around and do fun things. You know, there's a huge part of it about networking. We have to network, we have to grow, we have to ask questions. So get involved. You want to change the way the game is. You need to get involved in the game. Don't stand on the sidelines and just yell and complain like one of those overactive parents like Garland. I'm pretty sure he did that.
No, so that's great though, because I know all too often I hear, who did this? Who wrote that? And, I tell folks all the time, you can participate in this. You can actually have a say in what gets put out for us to actually abide by. So thank you for that. So a huge thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to talk with me and our colleagues in the sterile processing field. Thank you, Malinda.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So, folks, I hope this episode has been useful. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. If you want to support the podcast, you can find us at Below the Hospital on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Amy Array. Until then, see you when I see you.